Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Oh, yes.
Am I on mute? Yes, I was. Hello and welcome to Set Phasers.
Yes, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
A highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Yes, I feel kind of like Brent Spiner in the first Independence Day movie, where he plays the weird scientist at Section 51 or whatever it's called, Area 51. Yeah. And he's like, obviously the last few days have been very interesting. Things have been turning. So many interesting things have been happening with Star Trek these last 6-7 days.
So
it's
much
very
news.
Intense. We're gonna address it at the end of the episode, but we're gonna power through. But I just want to let you know, it's been very exciting over here at Set Phasers HQ, as we have discussed how to move forward.
Well, yes, indeed. Been trying to frantically pull it together how to move forward.
Oh no, we have plenty of time. We have almost 3 months. So today we will be discussing episode 4 of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. It is entitled "The Butcher Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry."
Indeed.
And today's episode is brought to you by Stardate 10731.8.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Of course. It is a hell of a sponsor. And we are your hosts. I am Steph Mans.
And I am Akie Burmese.
Awesome. Akie, let's do our rundown.
It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me?
You have, it's become like a thing now. I wasn't even prepared for that. You've got you're doing a hand jive.
I don't know what happened.
You know what?
The music just takes over me.
I'm not mad about it, Steph. I'm not mad about it. Okay, let's talk about this episode.
Let's do it.
So if we begin with a blasted landscape, there's lightning coming down and structures arising up from primordial rock. And we're like, what is happening? And then we zoom out and we find out that that's how you make a Starfleet suit. Michael's suit is being created in the suit creator.
Right. Because we knew that.
Cool.
That's a new thing.
It was just a weird, sort of scary way to start out the episode, I thought. Yeah.
Was it like a sort of tailored suit that was being created?
Yeah, I assume it makes a suit for you specifically. Right? I mean,
I guess so. But it makes it in a drawer for you.
It's like when you order the food, you're like computer, Earl Grey hot. Make me a blue onesie with silver stripes. So she gets her blue onesie with silver stripes and she puts it on and she's looking at herself and she's kind of contemplating this. As we know, Michael has just accepted the offer to work on the Discovery after having been being a prisoner for having basically started a war by engaging in mutiny against her former captain. So everyone's a little freaked out about that. In walks everyone's favorite, Sylvia Tilly. And she says that Michael was in the shower and that something had gotten pinged and that she ran down to the PO to pick something up. And she's holding what looks like a weird boom box. And she hands it to Michael. And it turns out to be she's like, you should check it out. Michael puts her hand on it, and it says, "Last Will and Testament of Philippa Georgiou." And Michael's like, absolutely not. That is the aforementioned captain whom she mutinied. So she just shoves it under the bed, and she and Tilly share a very awkward moment in their quarters, which they are blissfully relieved of by Michael being called to the bridge. And Michael's walking down the hall, and she's like, okay, well, that was awkward, but let's get to work here on the Discovery. She opens the turbo lift. Who's in there? But Saru, Commander Saru, who also has. There's no love lost between Michael and Saru. And Saru is he's a Kelpian, and they have. I don't know if we've ever discussed the Kelpian biology.
The ganglia.
The threat ganglia. They have these things that come out of the back of their head when they sense a predator is near or hunting or danger. It's described as the approach of death by Saru himself in the first episode. In any case, he's in the elevator with Michael, and his threat ganglia come flying out. And Michael's like, hey, tell your threat ganglia I'm not here to ruin anything. And Saru's like, my threat ganglia are not appeased by that. We are not. We do not feel good with that. And so it doesn't seem like things are really going to patch up easily between Michael and Saru. Mm-hmm. They open the door to the turbolift. They come out onto the bridge, and it's chaos. There's a Klingon thing, and boom, 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 pew, 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 and Captain Lorca's like, "You fire! Give me the water solution, and you, ensign, do the thing with the thing." And then ship flies that boom, 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 and it shoots the Enterprise, and he says, "We're all dead," and he turns around, and it was a simulation the whole time. So. Do you
think everyone else knew that, or was it just, did he like throw it on everyone?
I think
because we're not sure, we don't know.
I think they would have known it was a simulation, right?
Okay, I don't know, because he seems like the kind of guy that he'd just like throw it on them.
He's a strange guy. Like, yeah, he would pull in an elaborate ruse to make them think they're actually being attacked by Klingons. You know what? I wouldn't put it past him. Probably he has some real issues. So. Anyway, he basically gives them a stern dressing down for not defeating the imaginary Klingons. Tells them to do better. He says, Saru, run the simulation again. And then he takes Michael down to the creepy room that we saw him at the end of the previous episode. And he says, hey, you and me are going to win this war, not these like pencil-pushing nerds upstairs. And shows her the beast that he took off the USS Glenn. It's like a containment chamber, and he says this thing survived Klingon attacks, it survived phaser attacks. I want you to figure out how it did that, and I want you to turn it into a weapon and get back to me ASAP. And yes, and boom, we go to the credits. After that, when we return from the credits, meanwhile in Klingonville,
Klingonville. Klingon Town.
Meanwhile, in Klingon Town, it's Vok and L'Rell, who were the two, like, sort of like lieutenants to T'Kuvma, and Vok is looking at some kind of weird display, and L'Rell comes up, and they basically discuss how they've been sitting in the debris field at the binary stars for months since the first battle ended because the ship was immobilized by the war, and they have not been part of the Klingon Federation war, we suspect. They have just been slowly starving on their ship. And L'Rell's like, you got to do something. We're here starving. We're getting tired. And she says, you should, because they don't have a dilithium processor. And so she is trying to...
and we all know how important those dilithium processors are.
Listen, you're not going to get anywhere in the universe without your dilithium processor. That's the thing. You'd just be dead in the water. There's no other way. So L'Rell is trying to impress upon him the importance of sacrificing things in order to get things done, because he's like, I don't want to take the dilithium processor from the Shenzhou because they are our enemy, and we must Klingon Mak Tajaj, remain Klingon. And she's like, hey, listen, my family's clan is called the Makai. We're like spies and stuff, and we like get things done. And if you don't want us to starve to death in space and have none of T'Kuvma's followers join battle and have him be forgotten altogether, then you need to pull it together and get something done. So that's what's happening in Klingon Town. We switch right back to the ship, Discovery. Michael is in the room, like, finding out that the big, weird beast is similar to a tardigrade, which, if you're an extreme nerd, and I hope most of you are, you know that a tardigrade is a microscopic creature that can be found on Earth, but also apparently can live in like space, in like vacuum, and like incredibly high and cold temperatures. But
and be like a million times the size.
This would be, I think, maybe even more than 1 million. I actually don't know. I'm not going to pretend I can do the math on that. But let's say many
Let's
orders
make
of
it up.
magnitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
70 million times the size of a normal tardigrade.
70 billion.
70 billion times. 70 billion times the size of
So
the
much
others.
better like that.
Right? Yeah, any numbers
Yeah.
I think I should get close to the mic for.
Definitely.
170 billion. And in comes Commander Landry, who is, basically like Lorca's enforcer. And Landry's like, Lorca thought we'd make a good team, so I'm here to help you turn this thing into a weapon. And Michael's like, actually, it looks like it feeds on, she's like total super duper nerd mode. She's like, it resembles a tardigrade and feeds on vegetation and possibly is not a predator. I'd be surprised. And Landry's sort of like, listen, this is not interesting to us. She actually has a great quote because Michael's like, listen, I'm a xenobiologist, okay? And Landry says, Lorca does not care what you are. Lorca isn't interested in what you are. He's interested in what you can do for him. And then they stare at each other in silence. Meanwhile, boom, Lorca. We go to Lorca, and he's eating
Squid? What is he eating?
shrimp.
There
Squid.
was legs. They were like
They were
tendrils.
like long, tendrily shrimp squids. They could have been anything.
Shrimp squids.
Shrimp squids.
Okay.
And
a new thing.
yeah, it's like a whatever it is, it's like weird and gelatinous, and he's dipping it in a sauce, and he's eating it, and he's chewing it, and it's gross. And he's doing it at his standing desk because he's a weirdo. And he gets a message from Admiral. Oh, I wrote down her name because it's Cornwell. Cornwell. Admiral Cornwell.
Cornwell. It sounds very vanilla, doesn't it?
It does sound a little. I'm like Cornwell.
Sounds
Lorca,
farmery. It's meant
Michael
to.
Burnham, Cornwell. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, anyway, I like Cornwell. Katrina is her first name. Katrina Cornwell.
We like her.
We do. Well, yes. You and I agree. She's great.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, Lorca, there's a mining colony on Corvan 2, and it supplies the Federation with 40% of its dilithium. This is a big dilithium episode. And it's under attack by Klingons, and their shields are only going to hold for the next 6 hours, and the closest ship is 85 hours away. And we need you to use your super duper fancy pants spore drive that can allow you to zip, zap, zoom in any place in the galaxy right away and save these people, because otherwise we're going to lose the war because we won't have any dilithium and our ships will be dead in the water. And he's like, I hear you and I can do it. And she's like, are you 100% sure? And he's like, I am 100% sure. And then they smash cut to Stamets telling him there is no way in hell that we can make this ship run. Do you remember the last episode? What happened to the Glen? All the people got twisted inside out.
Yeah.
We don't know how to make this stuff work. But fortunately, this is Starfleet. So Lorca just says, okay, if it doesn't work, I'm going to need you to make it work before 6 hours runs out. And he just storms out of engineering. So sort of leaving Stamets with like, how do we maybe make this work? So that is the situation there. We smash cut back to the Klingons. And this is just kind of a weird little interstitial bit. Vulcan and L'Rell are kind of walking on the ship, and then a Klingon zooms in, and it's Cole. He's the Klingon with like the red painted face. I was talking a lot of smack in episodes 1 and 2 to Jakuvma. He was like, I'm out of here, I don't believe it. But he comes and like bows low, and he's like, my bad, I came with like a lot of attitude earlier, but I really want to serve on this dope ship, even though it's dead in the water, and I'm here to help this war effort. And Volk, who I guess is not like super savvy, is like, hey man, yeah, totally, thanks for coming. He's like,
Don't apologize to me.
he's
It's
that
fine.
dude,
Stand
yeah.
up. Cool. You're
It's
good.
like, yeah. The jocks come to your party and they're about to like trash your house, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you came. Yeah, no, we're totally out of food. Everyone here is starving, but I have this great plan to go to the Shenzhou and get their dilithium processor, and we'll be right underway, and we're so happy. You should come. He's like, Takuvma's home is everyone's home, man. Make yourself at home.
We
And
have
that's
many
the end.
college references
It's
when
very
we're talking
cool.
about the show. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. Maybe I have a lot to get over.
I like it. I
From
mean,
our
it's
college days.
relatable.
Yeah. Okay, so we go back to the Discovery, and everyone is kind of like, all right, let's do this displacement thing. They go to a black alert, our first black alert. I don't know if you want to hit the alert sound.
Sure.
Why not? Give them a little black alert. That's what they do when they're about to use the spore drive. And everyone's kind of free. Even Lorca's kind of like, okay, are we ready? Are we good to do this? And Michael's still like looking at the animal and like studying information in the science lab. And they decide to engage it. And then, so I think, is this the first time we've seen the ship go into black alert? I think it is.
Yes.
So we got to see the saucer do its like a
The thing, yeah.
which is crazy. So we're all familiar with how ships go to warp in Star Trek, but we're not familiar with whatever this is. Like the saucer section literally spins around like a gimbal, and then comes back level, and then the ship just like disappears and shows up somewhere else. Presumably Corvan 2, but actually no, not Corvan 2, next to a star. And so everything's
supposed
hot.
to show up on Corvan 2.
It didn't work. Surprise, surprise. What Stamets, your head engineer, said wouldn't work, didn't work. And they have to spend all this time and effort to pull themselves out of the gravitational well of the star, which all of you super nerds will know, that's a pretty strong gravitational well. All while this is happening,
very strong.
It's
So it's ridiculously strong. I mean, it's like the Iron Man of gravitational pulls.
Yeah, like maybe 90 billion times more strong.
How many?
Maybe 90 billion times more strong than an average gravity well. I don't know why you encourage that kind of behavior in me, but you seem to be into it. Anyway, everything goes wrong. Stamets is like has his nose broken against the desk. He smashes his head against the desk, and they have to pull themselves out of the sun. Meanwhile, Michael is watching the tardigrade, and it's freaking out during the entire black alert, which is giving her some sort of idea. She's working on some sort of something thought. And so they managed to get out of the thing next to the star, and then it's like sort of picking up the pieces. We see Stamets in sickbay getting his severely broken nose fixed with a sweet laser. It's pretty nice. It's one of those, anytime they do something like that in sickbay on Star Trek, I'm always like, that's why I want to live then.
Wouldn't that be great if it just, one, it didn't hurt, I guess.
Yeah.
And also it was just super easy. There's no like...
They always seem inconvenienced by it. They're like, oh, you got to fix my nose, please, doc. And it's like, jaboom. But whatever. Anyway, this is when we meet Dr. Culber, Dr. Hugh Culber, played by none other than Wilson Cruz.
Played wonderfully
by none other than Wilson Cruz. And listen, I don't know about the rest of you people out there. I grew up in the 90s. Wilson Cruz is Ricky from My So-Called Life. And that means as soon as he was on screen, I may or may not have let out, I don't know, a loud.
Did you applaud?
I like, yeah, it was like a screaming applause. It's like, yeah, that kind of like freaky, like I just wasn't prepared. No one told me Wilson Cruz was going to be in this the first time, so I just was delighted. As the doctor. It was great. Anyway, he fixes Stamets' nose. Lorca shows up. You'd think Lorca's going to be like, well, that didn't work, but instead he's like, hey, go make that thing work. And Stamets is like, it can't work. We don't know how to use the technology. We got off the Glen. We don't want to twist ourselves into knots. We don't want to turn into like weird soup jello. And Lorca's like, you have 5 hours and 30 minutes to figure it out. So get down there. And then as motivation, I guess, he plays the audio of the miners and their families on the mining colony, like screaming and dying essentially over the ship-wide band. So everyone on the ship is just kind of like,
awkward.
Gosh, yeah, we better get
#
there.
awkward.
Yeah, Lorca's like, get it done, or these people are gonna die. It's it makes me think that maybe you were right about him running that simulation without telling them that it was a simulation. He's a maniac.
He is.
Yeah,
hands down. Like,
he's hands down an insane maniac. He's their captain. Oh boy.
Megalomaniac, would we say?
I would describe him as a megalomaniac. Yes, 100%. I guess in response to this, Commander Landry, who's like oorah for Lorca, is like, fine, let's get this thing to happen. She does. What I wrote down in my notes is Commander does dumb thing. I could not spare it detail. It's so stupid.
It was so stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so like I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna figure it out. So she like grabs a gun off the wall.
it was very cowboy.
It was so so hoorah. Yeah, like the guy
Hoorah.
who showed up. Yeah, hello, what's up? Retreat.
It's much
hell.
better out of your mouth than my British mouth.
Well,
Hoorah.
no, I like hoorah, hoorah. So she grabs a gun off the wall. She releases the force field holding the tardigrade / beast inside.
That's right, because she thinks she sedated it.
Yeah, she's like, why are you sedating it? She's like, I sedated it. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna cut off one of its claws and have you examine it. Which is like, why would you ever you have a xenobiologist here. Maybe they have, but whatever. She's like, great. And Michael's, as she's doing, he's like, we don't know what sedation's going to do to this weird thing that can live in super cold and super heat and inside a vacuum. But she's like, whatever. So she holds her gun up. The thing comes rushing out, of course, and tries to run to the doors of the science lab. Her response to this, instead of thinking, is to shoot it with the phase rifle that she's got. And then what I wrote was Commander does dumb thing, dies. The tardigrade leaps upon her and tosses her around like a weird rag doll.
Yep.
And thankfully, Michael remembers that the tardigrade had a sensitivity to light like darkness, so she has the lights brought to full. The tardigrade drops its bloody, meaty prize and runs back in. She closes the thing. She does an emergency transport to sickbay, and there we see Wilson Cruz once again saying, no, she dead.
She died.
She died because she did a dumb thing. I don't know how to say it in any other way. And what does that inspire Lorca to do? He turns to Michael and says, like, figure out how to use that thing. Don't let her have died in vain. So he... if he's not a megalomaniac, he is like an obsessive sociopath, which, you know, maybe that makes for a good captain. I don't know. We'll find out as the show goes on. So then we jump back to Volk and Laurel, the two Klingons, on the Shenzhou. And they have their sweet Klingon space suits that make me think of Predator. Because they have helmets that just like fold into their suit, and they're looking around and they're like, ugh, humans are disgusting. And they're down in the engineering area and they're cutting out the dilithium processor, I guess, and they are definitely engaging a little flirtation, if you catch my drift. Flirtation is what I said.
Got it. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, he's all like, hey, you were around. Are you jealous that I'm the leader? She's like, no, I'm not jealous you're the leader. I prefer not to have the mantle of leadership. That way I have freedom of movement so I can protect you and like get things done that you need. And he's like, looks at her and he's like, I'm very lucky to have you. And she's like, yeah, or whatever. Should we take out this processor? And he's like, what?
Because she says, should we uncouple?
Oh, yeah. And he goes, yeah.
And all of this in Klingon, and it's just
And
brilliant.
It's great. And it's great.
Sort of
Yes.
Klingon love-esque.
Klingon, yes. What?
It was funny, because did you not think, like, when we've seen other Klingons before, the way they've courted each other has been much more, like, forward.
Yes. But
And this was all sort of a bit nervous and, oh, hello,
Yeah,
and
this was
maybe
like,
you like me, and maybe I like you, and I don't know.
Should we uncouple? Yeah, there is a coquettishness to both Laurel and Volk as they interact with each other. And I think, listen, I don't want to get up on a tear here, but you know that I will. I think that Volk is just he's sort of naive, as you can tell from when Cole showed up and he was like, hey, man, come hang out. Yeah, we're just starving here, but you're welcome to come hang out on the ship. Your ship is my ship, man. And Laurel's got she literally says her family comes from like the spies of the Klingon Empire. So she just has a very roundabout way of doing things, saying things. So yeah, I think we're seeing Klingons in a way that we haven't seen them before. They're not just like these outright blustering warriors, especially the ones who would have been following Takuma, who was sort of an intellectual, a thoughtful, a genius. So anyway, they managed to uncouple the dilithium processor. And they're like, sweet, let's get this back on board. So we go back to the Discovery, and Michael has apparently asked Saru to come down to the science lab. And Saru comes in, and Michael's like, hey, I just want to apologize for, all the weird stuff between us. And Saru's like, even if you apologize, it's not that great, but whatever. I understand. We're here. We're trying to win a war. I don't agree with Lorca's methods, but whatever. And then Michael's like, hey, yeah, I was checking out this tardigrade, and, Landry, who died here, thought it was a predator, but I noticed that your threat ganglia didn't come out when you walked in here. They surely would have if it was a predator. And he's like, you brought me in here just to test this theory of yours? And he's like, you're terrible. And she was like, it was necessary. It was, oh, you know what? That was a Vulcan moment.
Was it now?
I can't believe I didn't think of that when we were discussing this.
I, Vulcan.
Yeah, she's like, I don't care about your feelings. I have to test my hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know, because of Michael's somewhat uncompassionate behavior with Saru and his probably long-term feelings of betrayal and jealousy with what happened on the Shinju, that the tardigrade is not a predator. So then she instructs Tilly to go bring her some spores from engineering without telling Stamets. And she's like, you should probably go. And Tilly's like, no, there's nothing I can do. I can help you, and that's going to help us help these miners. Because in my imagination, Lorca's playing the miners dying every 25 minutes. Just over the... I just imagine he's like, hey, you thinking about taking a break? Maybe getting a bite to eat? Just want to let you know, people are dying. Here's what it sounds like. So Michael opens the thing, and she the force field, and she opens up the spores, and the spores float out in their blue magicalness, and the little tardigrade comes forward with his little anteater mouth full of pincers, and he eats the spores, and then puts his little feeler on Michael's shoulder, and she says, hello. And I couldn't help but think, that's a Vulcan hello. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, okay. That's call back to the first episode. So when we then return to the Klingon ship, and Volk has come back with the Rel, and they've got the dilithium processor, and they find Cole just living large on the bridge, and he's like, yeah, and everybody's eating, and Volk's like, hey, what's going on here? And Cole's like, yeah, I brought some food over from my ship for your guys, and now the ship is mine. And
basically,
you're nobody.
he's ordered pizzas at the frat house.
Yeah, he's like, you didn't have any pizza in the fridge, and you went out to get healthy snacks, and instead I just ordered pizza. And now everybody thinks I should be running this party. I'm the best. I'm Cole. And
Cole. It's even such a frat boy name, isn't it?
He's like, what's up, Cole? He says the price of loyalty is low for those who are starving. I don't know. I don't know either. I'm not a frat boy.
Me neither.
Never was. So then he's like, hey, I'm going to kill you. You're a loser. You're nobody. And then Volk looks at Laurel. He's like, remember when we were flirting before in the Shenju and stuff? Maybe you want to, hang out with me and stuff? And she's like, here's the dilithium thing to Cole. And she's like, you're the best. And she takes a big chicken leg or whatever leg they're eating.
Because you don't know. Because they were talking about, eating... Giorgio.
Yeah, they said you remember when you ate Giorgio? I saw you smile when you peeled the meat from her smooth head. Oh, Klingon Mak Tajash. Oh yeah. At that moment, I wrote "et tu, Laurel." So sad. It hurt my feelings. Okay. So what? Then I got lost. Oh, yeah. So then Michael basically explains, she explains the whole deal to Stamets. And she's like, hey, I think this thing is symbiotic with your spores and the thing, because they would eat spores and mushrooms and blah, blah, blah. And they start to hit it off in a weird way. Stamets, who basically hates everyone.
Right. Because until this moment, he's just Michael proposes something or hypothesizes, and he's like, shut up. What do you know?
Yeah, you're a convict. Get out of my face. Right?
And suddenly, he's like, I think he might be right.
This is a cool idea. And so she's like, why don't we zip, zap, zoom the tardigrade down into your spore garden and see what happens. And then they transport it to the spore garden, and it's like moving around, and they're both like, oh, it's like eating the spores. And Michael says, like, I think it's talking to them even. And then, he says, like, in like a very cute way, he's like, oh, that's not fair. I always wanted to talk to my mushrooms.
Right.
And I have to say,
that's that moment of, trust has been built with him and Michael.
And also with me. That was the moment I was like, Stamets, I'll love you forever.
Right.
You can do no wrong.
Because he suddenly became not an asshole.
Right, because he had love for his mushrooms. Keep it together, Burmese. All right, so once they figure that out, they're like, oh, so I think this thing is the supercomputer. This is the thing that can figure out the spore network and get us to where we need to go. That way we're not jumping into stars by accident. So they hook up the old tardigrade. They put it into the little chamber inside engineering, and they fill it with spores. And and then in order for the thing to work, these huge like needles come out of these two things they got off the gland and go into the tardigrade. And it's like, it's roaring. It's really pretty hard to watch. But
And
that's
Michael
when we get
looks pained.
Michael looks pained by this. This is a true moment of empathy for Michael. Because that thing had become her friend. It had put its little weird lip tendrils on her shoulder. So that's when we get bada bing, bada boom, Black Alert number 2. And so they use the tardigrade to do the Black Alert number 2, and we cut to Corvan 2, and their like shield is failing, and these like Klingon like warbirds are like flying around and shooting at it, and then out of nowhere, wah 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 wah, boom 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 boom, the Discovery shows up, and it blows one up right away, and it's like over the community, and then something very weird happens, which I thought was kind of cool. This is like a redeeming moment for Lorca after all the weirdness, because like the Klingon ships are shooting at the Discovery, and its shields are going down by like 10 and 12% each time, and it's like at 30%, 20%, 15%, and Lorca's like, hold, I want them all around us, hold, and then which I love. I love that in any movie. I just want to take time out to say, anytime a commander is like, hold, and they always like cut like it's hold, and then cut to like a horde running at them, and it's like hold. Yeah, it just made my day. And then when the Klingons get close enough, they jump is what they call using the spore drive. They jump to their next location, and they use the like weird torsion effect to destroy all the Klingon ships.
I thought they left like a bunch of tornado things, like
Well,
torpedoes. In
yes,
fact,
it seemed like that too.
and then that's what went off. That's what I
so
thought
they
it
jumped
looked
out,
like.
broke the ones close, and got the ones further away. The Discovery proved its true dominance in the theater of war. And then there's a cute moment after that when the shields fall and the like miners run out, and they're like, "Who was that?"
And you just see these ships just fall into the atmosphere and like
you're like,
disintegrate.
That's right. So it was Star Trek Discovery, baby. Okay, so we know Michael's concerned about the tardigrade, and sometimes I sing when I get too excited. We go back to Volk now, so L'Rell, in addition to like stabbing in the back, is like, I know what we should do with this traitor, and we're gonna leave him on the Shenzhou to starve and freeze to death. So he's standing on the Shenzhou by himself, and he's like, I can't believe they're gonna leave me. He's so naive and like sort of just so goofy and trusting that he's like talking out loud like, my friends.
It's like a puppy.
Yeah.
He's like this
man.
Labrador puppy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And he's looking around at the like Starfleet stuff. He breaks a couple things. But then, lo and behold, L'Rell shows up behind him, and he's like about to like kill her or something. She's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's the only way I can get you off the ship, baby. So here's what we're going to do. We have to find a way to get you power, because Cole's too strong now. He's too strong, but he's got no courage and he's got no intelligence, and we need to start a resistance within the Klingon Empire for you to take over the Klingon Empire. But it's going to require some serious like, some serious sacrifices. You're going to have to give up a lot in order for this to work. And Volk says, what must I sacrifice? And L'Rell responds, everything. Everything. So, I don't know. There's like a very slow police car outside.
It is. I think you just love New York,
Yeah, it's like,
Brooklyn.
this is live, people. This is what
Yeah,
it's like
this is live.
in New York. They're gonna
I'll try
come
and
to my
cut it out in
corner.
a second
Well, that's why I'm just gonna
when we
start
do
over.
our
Exactly.
start it all over.
But it feels like it.
Because if you're watching live, we
Yeah.
record this and then release it as a podcast.
That's right. Hey, we release this as a podcast every Monday, just so you
We
know.
do.
And we cut out most of the interruptions by ambulances. But one like that, where clearly they're using their siren so they can go through each of the stop signs on my block, it's hard because it just goes and it's loud and it goes, it's loud.
Where were we?
Okay, so
I wish we
Give
had a
up
rewind
everything.
button.
no, that's
Give
all
up-
right. I know exactly what's next.
Everything.
Yeah.
Give everything.
All right, so then we go into our first Tilly time, well, our only Tilly time of the episode, because this is. Are you gonna listen to Tilly time?
Don't be silly. Tilly, it's your time.
Oh yeah, listen.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing better because Tilly is perpetually sort of self-doubting, and uses a lot of extraneous language. But when she wants to inspire you, you're going to get the message from Tilly. Sylvia Tilly does
Oh,
not
yeah.
mess around. So Michael is like sort of feeling weird that the tardigrade is not doing well, and they're back in their quarters where the episode began. And Michael's sort of contemplating things, and Tilly says, you should open up that thing from Georgia. She would have wanted you to have it. It wouldn't have traveled this whole universe to come to you, the whole galaxy to come to you. You might as well open it.
Yep.
And so Michael resolves herself. This is like Tilly showing some, real executive or officer chops. She's like, hey, get it together.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael gets it, opens it up, and it's the last will and testament of Philippa Georgiou.
Looking beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's Michelle Yeoh, so what
Well,
do you
I know,
expect?
but just the hair is perfect. I'm just because
Well,
I looked
she
at that and I
had-
was like, oh, your hair looks so good.
Well, she was like, hey, this is going to be my last will and
I'm
testament.
gonna
I'm going to make sure it
yeah,
looks
sure.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
And she probably recorded it before the mutiny.
of course.
Yeah, she would have had to because she was
She didn't
dead
know
several
that.
hours thereafter.
Sure.
So it's even more meaningful. Anyway, George was like, hey, I left you this thing that means the most, it's super important to me, and I think you should have it. And Michael, she says, Michael, I'm as proud of you as if you were my own daughter. And when they open up the box, it's a telescope. It's George's ancient telescope, which he said has been handed down generation to generation. And
Yep.
now it's coming to Michael. And she says, this is important. To know yourself is to know others. Or to know others is to know yourself. Either way is what she says.
Yep.
And that is where episode 4 ends. Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, that's right. Do we want to talk? Well, there's not any big stats here.
No, we didn't really have any stats.
But we should talk about. I mean, listen, it wouldn't be right. She was an executive officer. She died. I
She
think
was.
we should.
And let's
If you
do
wouldn't
it.
mind. Yeah,
I would love
think we
to.
should. I think it's important. Commander Ellen Landry, you served Lorca faithfully. He made you his his chief security officer. You were smart, you were tenacious, you knew what it meant to get the job done. But you did one very, very, very dumb thing, for no apparent reason other than you felt like you could. And for that reason, you were ripped apart by a giant, otherwise completely harmless, space cow. And nonetheless, we salute you. You had faith of the heart.
That was perfectly timed, Akie.
You know what? I can't believe this is what we do now. Okay, so
And we do it just for fun.
we do it just for fun.
What a
guess
commitment.
Now this is our next time.
Do we have any quotable moments?
Oh my God. We do
Did
have
you miss
quotable
quotable moments? Where am I quotable? I remember.
This is my
Quotable moments. There we go.
Easily my favorite drop of the show. Okay, so quotable moments. We got the "What must I sacrifice everything," which is just so great. And I love the flirtative thing Laurel says. She says, "I do not want the mantle of leadership behind you. I am able to move." I mean, come on, that is some sexy stuff. Hear it in the original Klingon. I don't know how you,
Did you write down the original Klingon?
I could not find. No, I didn't. Do you think I tried to memorize it? I did.
Some days I think you might. I kind of feel like that's something you do in your spare time.
To quote Julia Roberts, "I got moves you've never seen." So probably
Pretty
my
Woman?
best friend's wedding, I think.
Best friend's wedding. Fair enough. Sorry. I thought I knew my Julia Roberts
Well,
films.
no, I'm not entirely sure either, but I'm pretty sure. You know what?
That's our next podcast.
We have actually already discussed this
We have.
as a podcast. Not that any of you care. Okay. And some of you might. I really enjoyed what Georgiou says at the very end of her will and testament. She says, "Take good care, but more importantly, take good care of those in your care."
Yes.
And that is Philippa Georgiou just being 100%. That's what a real captain is like. After all these minutes of watching Lorca kind of like weirdly inspire / torture his crew, but like they get the job done, you kind of in your head are like, I guess he gets results. You know what I mean?
He's a results guy. That's what I was just about to say.
But then you see Georgiou and you're like, no,
That's how it should be done.
You can do it better.
It can be
You
better.
It can be better. Anyway, those are my quotable moments from today's
I love it.
episode.
Good choices.
Mm-hmm.
I approve. Well, this is time for... Oh, me and my timing.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Next time, that was great. Next time on Set Phasers, we will be... Well, here's the thing. So part of the weird news this week was that
So much
Star
weird
Trek
news.
Discovery announced that season 3 is starting October 15th.
I know, that's soon.
Our whole plan was to do this wrap up and then like maybe take a break and maybe the show would come out for the season 3 next year. But it turns out actually the show is going to start up again in 11 weeks. So we have like maybe 25 episodes left in 11 weeks, and Steph and I are going to do our damnedest to get through every last one of them. We're going to double up. We're going to triple up when the stories work.
Yep.
And we are going to so I don't know what to say.
We're going to get you ready for season 3.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna
get
do.
You ready for season?
We're going to do the hard work so you don't have to.
You nailed it, Steph. What would I do without you? Okay, so next week we are going to do episodes 5 and 6, which are Choose Your Pain and Lathe, respectively. Lathe, I had to look it up. I remember looking it up 2 years ago. It is one of the 6 rivers in the underworld in Greek mythology, if I'm not mistaken. So the next 2 episodes are going to be a pretty light-hearted romp through...
You do love a good romp, don't you?
I love a good romp. That's just me. So listen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm sorry if we're punchy, but we're just so excited about these the new Star Trek properties coming out. If you enjoyed this program, you can catch us every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live or as a podcast every Monday, wherever podcasts are made to be gotten. So subscribe.
What he said. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Set Phasers Podcast. Feel free to follow us and join in the conversation of all things Trek. And we welcome the conversation of all things Trek. Whichever series of Star Trek you want to talk about, we are all on board.
That's right. We know it all. We have faith in the heart. And if you'd like to support our continuing mission to discover what Discovery has in store for us, we would only be delighted. You can patronize us. We can take it. By going to patreon.com/setphasers and like signing up for one of those levels. There's like some sweet, weird, nerdy rewards.
We've got
You get
nerdy
to-
things.
Very nerdy stuff that you can do with us.
Ensign, Lieutenant Commander, I
Uh-huh.
think.
Yes,
Those are
Lieutenant-
That sounds about right.
Those-
Get different things with us. We can have watch parties with you. We can
That's
have
right.
Ask Me Anythings. We've got loads of things going on.
Yeah. Might be a return to Kapla Corner. Who knows?
Ooh,
Ooh.
I got a bit excited there. Sorry. Well, anyway, until next time, I'm Steph Mans.
And I'm Akie Burmese, and this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.